Thank you for tuning into the Natty News Daily podcast. This episode is brought to you in part by our sponsor, Core Nutritionals. You can check out corenutritionals.com for all your supplement needs and use code Natty News Daily at checkout to save 20%. Enjoy the episode.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Natty News Daily podcast. I believe this is probably going to be our second episode of 2023. So we kicked it off with Joe Lacera, the vice president of the ANBF, and we're following that up with the president of the WNBF Ukraine, that is David Birger. So thank you, David, for coming on with us. I'm going to turn it right over to you. Let's hear a little bit about yourself, and let's dive right into the discussion.
So nice to meet you guys. It's a great honor for me to be invited on this podcast. It's a great honor also for natural bodybuilding community of Ukraine as well, because as you know, WNBF Ukraine is the first natural bodybuilding in Ukraine. So it's really important for us to have some maybe media coverage. Of course, it's really important to talk about what's going on in Ukraine, especially during the war, because we are promoting natural bodybuilding here in Ukraine, and so you are doing a great job. Natty News Daily. I've been following you guys for a few years, and of course you have a lot more followers now. You have a lot more athletes who follow you. Also, thank you so much for promoting natural bodybuilding. That's really important for natural bodybuilding community, of course. And thank you so much for your great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how it was, everything started in Ukraine. When I started to compete in 2018, but National Bodybuilding Federation didn't exist yet at this time, so I had to compete among those federations that exist, yes, in Ukraine. I of course competed with I stepped on stage with other guys, of course, enhanced guys. We were on the same stage, and I had to compete with them because natural bodybuilding just didn't exist. Yes, and a few years ago, of course, I followed the WNBF. I saw that there is WNBF Worlds as the most prestigious national bodybuilding competition, of course. I followed a few athletes like Jeff Alberts, Eric Helms, Alberto Nunez. Yes, we all know those very great athletes, of course. And we appreciate their knowledge. They spread about natural bodybuilding, and of course their books and etc. Of course, I started to follow everything, and one day his vice president of the WNBF, Mr. Bobel, just wrote to me, and he asked to describe the field of bodybuilding in Ukraine. Not only natural, just the field of bodybuilding.
Just the scene, yeah.
And me and also our vice president Rostislav, we decided to write an essay about our community, our bodybuilding community in Ukraine. And then we wrote back to Bob. Yes, he get the mail. Yes, and then we decided to start to establish WNBF Ukraine as the first national bodybuilding federation in Ukraine. And and of course it was a unique opportunity to athletes who didn't have the opportunity to compete as a national bodybuilder in Ukraine, because I didn't have those opportunities, but now all athletes in Ukraine have those opportunities, and of course to have in the future to become a WNBF Pro, and of course to have potentially become WNBF World's competitor. Yes, so it was a very interesting story how it was established. Yes, of course, already we held two tournaments. So last year and also the previous year, 2021, it was our first international tournament. We had two WNBF pros. So it was Carlos Alex from the men's physique competitor from Spain. Also Marcin Januzewicz from Poland, our first WNBF Pro. I remember them as my as my good friends, because it was like our first competition. And the last year we had the WNBF Pro from Israel in men's physique. So
you're already getting a lot of international athletes coming across. It's not even just Ukrainian athletes. That's pretty spectacular, actually.
Yeah. That's maybe strange, because some athletes are expecting to have that they will compete against Ukrainian athletes, but what's interesting about the developing of natural bodybuilding in Ukraine? So first of all, we have a very strong, I mean, from sport perspective, very strong female athletes, like especially in bikini, also figure. What about male bodybuilding is that we just didn't have enough time to, but of course we know that naturally you need more time to develop those physiques, yes, to develop this muscle mass. Of course, for male athletes, you just need more time to develop and to compete as a natural bodybuilder in bodybuilding or men's physique. So I hope next year we will have more male athletes especially in bodybuilding, because I'm also a competitive bodybuilder, but I didn't compete in the WNBF yet. And unfortunately, I can't compete in the Ukraine, of course, but
right.
I hope I will do it next season in Europe. But we will see how it's going on with war and other situations. But what's the most interesting, of course, is that we have, as I mentioned before, we have a really strong female athletes, and they have, of course, potential to become a WNBF pros in the future, of course.
Just so we can understand like the scale of things over there right now, do you know how many athletes you had in maybe like your last show, the last one that was run?
So the last one, yes, of course, we have a lot more athletes than year before, because a lot of athletes just afraid to go to Ukraine, and that's why what we have done, we just promote as much as we can in Ukraine. We had somewhere around 20 to 25 athletes, if I'll be right, if it would be right, yes, from Ukraine, and of course have some international athletes who didn't afraid to come to Ukraine, and one of those athletes became a WNBF Pro from Israel. Yes, but the year before we have 40, somewhere around 40 athletes, and somewhere around 50% of those athletes were foreign international athletes from Spain, from Poland, from Nigeria, from Europe, from other countries. So we were very proud to hold with those results for the first competition. But we never give up, and we decided to to help our second tournament. Of course, we knew that we will have less athletes than the previous year, but we've done it, and of course we have a plans for next year.
And the fact that you put on an event last year amidst what's going on is spectacular. I mean, that's how we heard about you and your story through Andrew Chappelle. I think he nominated you for the Spirit of Natural Bodybuilding award that we put on. So why don't you talk a little bit about what that was like last year, some of the challenges that you faced last year, and challenges I know is an understatement, but I'll let you talk about that. I really love to hear about that.
Yeah, that's a tough question, of course, because you know, when we started to plan the competition, the biggest fear for me was how can I bring enough athletes, even for of course, if you have one athlete in each division, it's not enough to hold the competition. So you should have at least 5 athletes in every division to have a balanced competition, of course. And I decided to promote it. Of course, we had athletes from previous year. We have new athletes like first timers who had their debut in their divisions. Of course, it was men's physique, it was bikini, it was figure, but also it was more. It has more difficulties with, I mean, financial, of course, because of war. We have inflation. We have some problems with. So have to plan the way from Europe to Ukraine, of course, because we still don't have an air connection. So athletes have to plan their way through Europe and through our western border, because currently I'm in Lviv, so it's 1,000 kilometers from the front line, and this is the so it's like 70 kilometers from Poland, from the Poland border. And it's not so difficult to go from Poland to Lviv, but of course a lot of athletes afraid because of air alarms, because of missiles potential, yes, bombs and so I think you know the situation, but we've done everything. It is what it is. Yes, we couldn't expect more than we can do physically. Yes, we can't force athletes to go to Ukraine. We just can promote a tournament, yes, and to say yes, you can compete, but of course we can provide all security for you. We can provide shelter, but of course there is a responsibility for me as a promoter. What can happen if something, and as I didn't mention it, but we have an air alarm before the tournament. Yes, and when it finished, so we start the competition was started. So sometimes we have air alarms, and yes, it's 1,000 kilometers from the front line, but we still have it. We will see how it will be next year. I hope we will have the war will be over. Yes, but we hope, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we talk about just promoting in general as being a stressful thing, and there's a lot of logistics and organizing and meetings, and I just can't imagine having to do that with a whole layer of everything that you're going through right now. So I think that just speaks to your commitment to the sport, obviously, right? And that's why Andrew or Dr. Chappelle like thought so highly of you and thought to nominate you for that. So why don't we talk about that real quick, right? Like this sport has to just mean so much to you for you to be able to just keep going, right? Like I feel like a lot of people would just pack it up and say, we're waiting it out, we're not doing it, it's just not right. What does natural bodybuilding and what you're building mean to you?
So, when I started to compete, I had this vision to develop me as a natural bodybuilding from the very start. I didn't have thoughts about other competition. I just didn't have this opportunity to compete in Ukraine. If I had this opportunity, it would be perfect. But if you want if you really love this sport, you have to understand that you have a responsibility. What if you become a promoter? You have the responsibility to develop this sport among young athletes, among those who want to debut in this sport. And of course, to be a promoter, of course, it's not easy, but I don't complain, of course, because I love it. Yes, and I have this vision of developing natural bodybuilding among among Ukrainians, of course, who just love sport, love healthy lifestyle, and want to live and want to develop longevity in their lives. Yes, and so for me, natural bodybuilding is, first of all, is about healthy lifestyle. Yes, and how to develop this longevity, because I know a lot of athletes who wants to compete in bodybuilding. They forget about longevity and they want to build those physiques in a few years, and what will be next after those years, after your competition. That's why the natural bodybuilding is all about it. How you can plan your future, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I mean, I think that contest prep, like in natural bodybuilding, is all about longevity, because you have a contest prep for 30 weeks. Yes, you are planning for your off season for 2 or 3 weeks, and then you compete again. So you have a plan for 10, for 15 years at least. And so I think as a natural bodybuilder, it's really important to understand that you have a long growth, very long growth, not just 5 years and it's done. I think that's what I've learned from other experienced bodybuilders. As I mentioned them, Alberto Nunez, Jeff Alberts, Eric Helms, those great bodybuilders who teach us how to become a better natural bodybuilder. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. And we've talked about it a lot. Some of the best competitive bodybuilders are the guys that are, 35, mid 30s to high 30s, just because of the muscle maturity and the time it takes to really develop the symmetry and the density to do well, and to be able to gain some of the conditioning that's expected nowadays. So it's almost a requirement to be, thinking long term in this sport.
Yeah, 100% agree. So and because of those pages and YouTube channels who promote natural bodybuilding, it can be possible for young athletes who didn't ever compete in natural bodybuilding, to know more information about it. Of course, we in WNBF Ukraine have a lot of educational stuff, like lectures, like we have seminars for they are free. They are free seminars for every person who would like to know more about bodybuilding or just healthy lifestyle. That's about nutrition, about workouts, and if you like it, of course, potentially you can compete. And of course, we teach people how to pose, how to plan your contest prep, because it's different than we heard it about in the internet, like contest prep for 8 weeks. Yes. So it doesn't exist in natural bodybuilding. You should have contest prep for at least 20 weeks if you are if you know your contest weight. Yes. So we promote it, the natural bodybuilding, not only like sport, but also like a lifestyle, also like of course like healthy lifestyle, where you can potentially get those knowledge, and then you can compete as a natural bodybuilder, female, males. So that's really awesome that we have the WNBF community, and we have the opportunity to communicate, of course, in those pages, in those between our meetings. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I've seen some of those seminars that you're talking about posted and being advertised and marketed, and I love that. I think there needs to be more outreach in general. Our page, 3DMJ, that you've mentioned a couple of times, like we try our best to spread awareness of the sport, but for a promoter and for the organization to go directly at it, that's huge, because even if someone finds a coach or finds a team, that's them getting into the fitness lifestyle, but they may not even know about the competitive side. So you kind of just bypass that whole learning curve, and you're spreading word, which is, I think it's great. I think it's something that more promoters should be doing, probably, putting out information beyond just here's my show date and here's how you sign up.
Yes, 100% agree. Of course, I think I just thought about it with other athletes, other people, about the global goal of the natural bodybuilding. I think the global goal has to be Olympics, like Olympic Games, because if the natural bodybuilding will become just bodybuilding will become an Olympic sport, so of course it can be like football, like other sports, when it can be spread all over the world. And like the global goal, of course, can be the Olympic Games, when it drug-free, it tested. Of course, we have polygraph, but that's another story. But I think we should have a goal. I think it can be achieved. It can be achieved maybe in 7-10 years. But it will depends on how the natural bodybuilding community will develop, and also the media coverage, and how many people will be interested to promote natural bodybuilding. Yes, that's really important to have those, of course, affiliates in every country, because if you want to develop natural bodybuilding as Olympic sport, it should be in almost like 70 countries in the world, like an official affiliate or something else. But you have yes, and there are rules for every sport to become an Olympic. I didn't know if you thought about it, about an Olympics, or did you have conversations about it with other athletes? I don't know.
No, it hasn't really ever come up. And where we are, I mean, so the US is just so scattered with organizations. So I think that would be the first big hurdle is, if natural bodybuilding is going to be, even considered for the Olympics, you would have to have pretty much one consolidated organization, right? And here, I don't know, Dan, how many would you say, like 10, 12 different organizations right now?
Something like
it's
that.
a mess.
Yeah.
Yes, but yes, that's a tough question, of course.
Mhm.
But when you have like a global goal, you have a direct direction. You have a direction of development of this sport, because of course we have in bodybuilding we have Mr. Olympia, yes, the main tournament. In the natural bodybuilding there is worlds in the WNBF. It's the WNBF, of course. But also we have to mention the rules of the organization, where those rules are the most strict. Yes. And the term what is natural bodybuilding really is, of course, in the WNBF it's 10 years drug free, so it's that's a strict rule for every competitor. And of course, if you have to know about all rules to be eligible, yes, to compete in those organizations. But that's like another story. I just needed to share my thoughts about it.
Yeah, no, it's good to see your perspective, and it's good to see that you're looking beyond just Ukraine, right? Like you've got yourself established there, but you have these bigger, loftier goals for the sport as a whole, right? So like you said, you felt like you were obligated to start the WNBF Ukraine to help the younger athletes, that to give them the experience that you didn't have originally. But now it's almost like, if you love the sport as a whole, not just you specifically, but other people, it's our obligation to give back in some way as well, right? So if more people adopt that mindset, I think the sport absolutely will grow. And you have to give back a bit, right? If we really want it to grow, you can't just take and compete and walk away and disappear, right? There has to be some level of commitment to either the organization or the sport as a whole. So yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, I love what you're doing to grow the sport, on the local level, and your vision for what it can be. And, I mean, that's part of what we do with Natty News Daily, is we saw that natural bodybuilding could be better and could be promoted more and, more legitimized. So, I certainly love what you're doing. So, and love your vision.
Yeah.
Guys, I really like your awards in the end of the year. It's like something that unite natural bodybuilders all over the world, because you compare those, you read those comments and then just choose the best athletes, and that's really awesome to see when those natural bodybuilders from all over the world start to vote for the best athletes. That's really awesome. I like it.
Thank you.
And we feel like we know a lot of athletes just from the page and just from communications and networking, but every time we put up a post, every time we do awards, there's a name that I don't recognize, and I end up on the profile and it's just some other spectacular physique, right? So there's just so much talent out there right now that's still undiscovered because there's not enough coverage of the sport.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, Dan, are we getting close on time there, you think?
We are a little bit close. So yeah, why don't we wrap things up here? David, any closing thoughts, and where can people find you?
So what I would like to share is, of course, that's those words for young natural bodybuilders, or just young people who would like to become just a bodybuilder. So first of all, think long term. First of all, plan your future. If you want to compete, just get some knowledge about the proper nutrition, about workouts. Get some really proper, relative info, proper information about bodybuilding, about how to develop this physiques, how to structure your workouts, because I really like the theme of planning your workouts, how to gain this strength, like natural bodybuilders, because you need time to build the strength. And of course, so the message for the young people, so is to think long term, think about longevity, get the knowledge about proper nutrition, proper trainings. Don't move too fast, because it's bodybuilding. Bodybuilding doesn't like so much speed. So, and of course, I think that's enough. I think that's enough.
I like it, and it's a message that we like to spread a lot, actually. So that's a recurrent message for those that want to follow yourself as an athlete, and those that want to follow WNBF Ukraine. Where can we find you?
So you can follow me on the Instagram, David Birger. This is my Instagram, and of course our official page, WNBF Ukraine. We have all the information you need on our main posts, so you can check it out. And of course, we are planning our new season 2023. Stay tuned.
Yes. When are your shows this year?
Thank you so much, guys. Natty News Daily for coverage. Yes, we didn't we didn't post anything about our future tournament, but I think we will do it in months, a few weeks, because we have to think about future, what will going on in a few months. Yes, so we will provide an additional information on our social media.
Yeah, so we will absolutely stay tuned for that. So that just about wraps up this episode of the Natty News Daily podcast. If you guys liked it, give us a like, a follow, a share. If you want to spread the word of natural bodybuilding, you know what to do. And we thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one.